Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and I'm here with Lenovo IdeaPad U150 for a little mini review on video. This is an 11.6-inch laptop, means it has an 11.6-inch display, 1366 by 768 pixel resolution. It's thin and light, which means that it's about 3.5 pounds, relatively small compared with a full-size laptop, fairly easy to just sort of fit in your hand, but definitely bigger than a 10-inch netbook and a little bit heavier. Overall, it's got a slightly more professional look than a lot of low-cost thin and lights or netbooks. The lid, for example, is not glossy. It has sort of a textured pattern here, and that's actually raised so you can feel the lines on it. The Lenovo logo here is also raised a little bit. You've got a sort of metallic and plastic combination case. On the bottom, nice large access panels, very easy to upgrade the RAM, the hard drive, and other components. The battery is a 6-cell battery that doesn't sit quite flush with the base of the unit, but doesn't take up too much extra space and sort of raises the laptop just a little bit in the back when you're using it. Around the sides, we've got VGA, a combination USB/eSATA port, HDMI. There's a SD card slot right here. It's kind of hard to see, but there it is. On the other side, we've got a wireless toggle, audio jacks, 2 more USB, Ethernet, power, a lock adapter, and that's about it around the side. So let's take a look what happens when you open it up. The first thing that you'll notice is that the keyboard is sort of a two-tone model, which for the most part, I mean, it's a nice look. So the bottom of the computer has one look, the top is sort of darker, there's glossy plastic here, matte plastic here, which is actually very similar in texture to the lid. But one thing that I've noticed is that the delete key is this dark black key up here, and backspace just below it in sort of the lighter gray silver color. And I find myself fairly frequently forgetting where the delete key is. If you use this for a long time, I'm sure you get used to that sort of thing, but as somebody who sort of switches back and forth between a lot of laptops, I have some problems with it occasionally. Another thing that I have a big problem with, and this is just sort of a preference thing, because I know Lenovo does this on almost all their laptops, is the function and control keys. Most laptops I've used have the control key all the way on the outside. This one has the function, and that means that you really have to sort of get used to the fact that you move your finger over here to hit control. I use control a lot more than I use the function key because I use it for keyboard shortcuts in many different programs, or control X for cut, control C for copy, control V for paste, etc. And it's or control T to create a new tab in a web browser, and it sort of took some getting used to. After you know, maybe a week or two of use, I did sort of get used to doing that on this computer, but then when I would go to a different computer, I'd expect function to be on the outside and control. So it's really, you know, if you're a Lenovo person, that's probably not a problem for you. I find it a little bit disconcerting. Touchpad is nice and wide, supports multi-touch gestures, so you can use 2 fingers to scroll up and down. 2 distinct buttons that I like. They've sort of got a nice feel to them. The keyboard overall, the keys just don't... it's kind of hard to describe the feeling of the keys. I feel like they're not quite as responsive as keys on some other keyboards that I've used. They just don't spring back the way that I like them to. Overall, it's usable, and I can type 80-90 words a minute on this keyboard. The layout overall is pretty much in the right place, but it just sort of has a feel that is not my favorite. Laptop Magazine, in their review, referred to these keys as sort of mushy, and I find that that's a pretty good way to describe it. I've used the Lenovo IdeaPad S12, which is a similar size laptop with a similar size keyboard, and I find that their keys are the keys on that laptop are much more responsive. Near the top here, there are a couple of special function buttons. There's a mute button, a dedicated mute button, which is interesting because the volume keys are actually combination keys down here. So to make the volume go up and down, for example, you would hit function and then one of these keys. But you can toggle the mute very quickly and easily. And then this arrow key here is actually for the quick restore software. So you can restore to factory default or restore to a previous backup setting. The display overall, I'm pretty happy with. It's a glossy display, and it's sort of got a glossy lid, so in a really brightly lit situation, especially if the screen is off, you can see your own reflection in it. But for the most part, it gets pretty bright, and in most situations, when you actually have the monitor on, you're not going to have too much problem seeing text. The computer's fairly responsive. It has a Core 2 Duo SU7300 processor, which is capable of some pretty significant activity. No problem multitasking, running multiple browser tabs while doing different things. Transcoding video, audio is relatively fast and easy. So I'm pretty happy with the CPU performance. In terms of graphics, it can also handle high-definition video playback, including high-definition flash video playback. So here's a HD video from Vimeo, for example. Well, I accidentally just toggled off the HD, but it does work. Although this is a rather odd video to be doing that with. See if we can find another one. So here we go, we've got high-definition video from Vimeo playing back relatively smoothly. And the one thing that I have noticed, I ran a couple of benchmarks, and you can see more of this at Liliputing.com with my full text review. I ran some benchmarks, and it's a little bit slower performance-wise, even with that SU7300 processor. It's a little bit slower than the Asus UL20A, which has the same processor. Not a huge difference, but on the benchmarks that I ran, it was a little bit slower at transcoding audio and video files, a little bit slower on the 3D Mark graphics test as well. But it's a barely noticeable difference, and overall significantly faster than what you would get from a netbook. That said, the integrated GMA 3500 graphics, while it can handle high-definition video playback, not quite as powerful as the NVIDIA Ion graphics that you would get on something like, say, the Lenovo IdeaPad S12. So if you want to be able to play video games, 3D video games, some of them are going to work on here, but you're mostly going to want to stick with older games. If you want something capable of handling newer games, you're probably going to want to get something with higher-end graphics, even if that means getting a slower processor. So that is the Lenovo IdeaPad U150 11.6-inch laptop. It does actually come with a variety of different processors. This is the high-end version with the SU7300. You can also get a cheaper model with a little bit less RAM, a little bit less hard drive space, and a dual-core Pentium processor, the SU4100 processor. That'll shave about $100 off the price. That version goes for about $650. This version goes for about $750. I think, you can probably find something a little bit better for $750, to be perfectly honest, in the same size and the same performance range. But the nice thing about Lenovo is if you keep an eye peeled, they often have discount coupons that'll help bring the price down, at which point, if you're good with the keyboard, and a couple of quirks that it has, like the delete key is a little bit harder to find, and the function and control keys out here. And as I said, it's not the best feeling keyboard I've ever used. Overall performance-wise, it's a pretty decent computer, and it is thin and light, and it does get about 5 hours of battery life, which is not the best, but definitely not the worst battery that I've tested. This is Brad Linder from Liliputing, and you can find out more about this laptop by checking out my full text review at Liliputing.com.